Yeah, so myself, I'm Helge Mjørvang. I work in Subsea 7 with business development in floating wind. So I'll tell you a bit of what Subsea 7 is doing within offshore wind and with focus on floating wind in particular, and why we're happy to join this NOV Accelerator. So here we see a photo from last year when we were at on Hywind Tampen doing the cables. So, I mean, we are a global leader within the offshore energy space. We've got more than 13,000 employees worldwide, and we've done more than 1,000 projects offshore. And we have our own fleet of more than 30 vessels for now, which is sort of the typical, what we call the enabling vessels, like pipeline vessels and diving vessels and highly specialized vessels within offshore wind. We have the Seaway fleet, and we're operating worldwide with large supply chain. We have some pipelines, spool bases, and fabrication yards around the world, but it's mainly for pipelines and mobilization bases. So this is kind of showing our offshore world. I mean, the projects we do are offshore. So you see here, we are active sort of within all the elements of the energy transition, including hydrogen, where we will be relevant for the offshore part. If there's pipelines, transportation systems, subsea storage, or involved in developing the offshore wind, whether it's fixed or floating, to power the hydrogen production. We wouldn't be sort of involved in the onshore part of developing an onshore plant. It would be sort of those offshore elements where we are relevant. And then a large part of our revenue today already is within offshore wind. So that sits within our daughter company called Seaway 7, which is focusing on both bottom fixed and floating wind. And I've done, I think it's a third of the offshore wind in Europe today. We've done more than 10 gigawatts today. Also looking at more innovative solutions for subsea energy storage to support providing stable power to shore from offshore wind or renewables. We're also in transport systems for both carbon capture and storage, and also for lower carbon oil and gas. So currently executing the Northern Lights project for Equinor, where we're doing the pipeline and all the subsea structures. So we've been more than 10 years, or 14 years to be specific, in offshore wind already. And we've done what the main things we have done is the foundations and array cables. That's sort of the main scope we are doing. So we have large heavy lift vessels installing the jackets and the monopiles and so on. And that's in our daughter company Seaway 7, and they've, as I said, they've delivered more than 10 gigawatts of offshore wind today already, both in Europe but also Asia and US. So sort of our journey within offshore wind, I think it really started in 2009, which what is now called Seaway 7. Started with the bottom fixed offshore wind, and they're still going on. And as I said, they've done more than 10 gigawatts to date. On the floating, of course, the track record is more limited, as there's more limited prospects that's out there. But we've supported Equinor on both the Hywind Scotland on the dynamic cables, and we did the same on Hywind Tampen last year. Also had some engagement in floating wind on sort of early stage developments. Mentioned here is the grey whale tree feed in South Korea, but there's also other activities we've had going on both here in Norway, but also France and Korea, UK, and so on. And then we are not targeting to become a developer, but we have a minority stake in a development called Salamander in the UK, which is more to be involved and learn the whole life cycle of the floating wind prospects. I wanted to mention as well that we bought a company called Exodus in 2018, which is a early development kind of or early engagement kind of company, which has supported the majority of all the successful ScotWind lease applications in the UK. And they are very good on this sort of very early origination of the developments. And then we have Subsea, also an affiliate of Subsea 7, which have their digital services for O&M, digital twins, and so on for offshore wind. But they also have a specific competence when it comes to fine-tuning of floater moorings and cables, and they have been part of developing the high wind concept for Equinor for more than 10 years. And then we have a majority stake in a floating concept called Nautilus, which is based in Spain. And this again, we are technology agnostic, and we're open to work with any floater technologies. We are not in any way locked to Nautilus, but we have a majority share in them, where that should be considered a competitive concept. We will be able to offer that. And we have a target to reach 30 gigawatts of installed offshore wind by 2030. So still committed and still going strong within the offshore wind industry. So I think within floating wind, it's the sort of, we have two main building blocks that makes us a bit unique from others. And one is the 14 years of offshore wind, where we've done, it's big numbers here, but we've done more than 1,400 floating wind foundations, monopiles and jackets, fabricated them all over the world, both in Asia, Middle East, and Europe, and done a lot of subsea substations, where on the subsea substation part, it's more the transport and installation. And we have purpose-built vessels doing the inter-array cables from turbine to turbine. So we've done almost 4,000 kilometers of those kind of cables. And that in combination with 40 years plus where we've been doing complex offshore floating systems. Examples shown here where we're towing out the Osterhamnsten platform in Norway. We've done more than 90 of these type of projects with mooring operations worldwide, and we've done a lot of dynamic projects for oil and gas, both power cables, umbilicals, risers, and so on, which we see as highly relevant. So that's sort of the two main building blocks we have, which we think are the right tools to have in the box to be able to execute the commercial scale floating wind farms that are upcoming. So a bit more on who we are in Norway. We are the largest marine contractor here in Norway, both in terms of revenue and amount of people. I won't read through all of this, but it's here in Stavanger. It's the Subsea 7 office with more than 500 employees. In Oslo is the main office of Seaway 7, our daughter company, which has 70 plus, and for Subsea also sits in Oslo. So altogether we're about 700 employees in Norway, and fun fact, we're actually Norway's largest exporter of offshore wind services with Seaway 7. And some of the activities we've been doing here, of course, Hywind Tampen, we've been doing a lot of studies and early engagement as well. I want to mention as well that we have an initiative going together with CM Offshore and Kongsberg, where we're looking to optimize marine operations for floating wind, and Exodus for Subsea already mentioned. And then on innovation and technology, I think that's a bit the reason why we are here. So why we are a partner in Norwegian on the Offshore Wind Accelerator program is, I mean, we really see that the capex or the LCOE in floating wind today is simply too high. It needs to be reduced, and a part of that, we believe, lies in new technologies. And this is where we need the joint industry effort to be able to unlock these solutions. And we want to help all the SMEs or new startups to make sure that they bring valuable technologies that fits in the overall picture and bring it forward. So hopefully it will be a valuable program for both of us, and really see this to unlock the CO2 reductions. You really need to engage all that knowledge and all that innovation and smart thoughts that exist throughout the whole supply chain, not just with the larger companies like us and developers. So we have technical program on floating wind shown here with various work streams where we're looking at optimized solutions for moorings, for cables, industrialization, serial fabrication, either it's of floaters or if it's suction anchors and so on. I think that's what I wanted to say here. And we're operating across the whole supply chain in offshore wind project, wants to be part of the mix all the way from project origination to delivery. Showing Exodus here, which is really able to support us in doing that early stage development, assessing the sites and being part of the consenting and so on. And then Subsea 7 coming in a bit later, especially in the pre-feed and feed phases, and then into execution. But really seeing this being part through that whole project life cycle as when we were able to deliver most value to our clients and to really unlock the new innovative solutions and take down the LCOE. So that's it for me.